everyone. I'm Rebecca Weber, and this is your Amac podcast, Better for America. If you haven't yet done so, just hit that subscribe button so that you never miss a BFA episode. Now, today we're honored to have with us really a remarkable leader, a thoughtful voice on so many important issues. Her name is Dr. Kelli Ward, and she was the first elected chairwoman of the Republican Party of Arizona. Her thoughtful leadership was rewarded in January of 2021 when she was reelected to a second term after successfully defending Republican majorities in the Arizona State House, State Senate, and Corporation Commission. Her background is no less impressive, having graduated with a science degree from Duke University and then top of her class from the West Virginia School of Osteopathic Medicine. And she has a master's degree in public health, is a family physician, has a small businesswoman for nearly 2 decades. And to top all of that off, she's a best-selling author with a book entitled Inspired by What's Right. So I want to welcome this fighter for what's right, a wife and a mom and a physician with deep roots in the private and public sectors, Dr. Kelli Ward. Welcome to Better for America.
Hi, Rebecca. Thanks for having me. Wow, yes, we do need to do things that are going to make America better. And that's why I'm glad you asked me to come on today here and talk about some of those things.
Well, we're thrilled because you have done so much and you have seen so much and you have really been right in the middle of your fight in Arizona. And so your expertise is really a resource for Amac's 2.4 million members. So I want to start by asking you, if you could, how do you see the 2022 season shaping up? You've really pioneered victories for those who are more conservative, who care so deeply about this country, for people who respect history and tradition and our nation's foundings. And now we turn into the wind and need to register us for some real victories at the state and federal levels. So I want to ask you, what do you see as some of the biggest issues? And tell us, what do you think will be needed to register big wins in 2022?
Right. 2022 really is so important. And Arizona really is the tip of the spear on everything from election integrity to border security to jobs in the economy to parental control in our education system. All of those battles are being fought right on the ground here in Arizona, as they are in many other states. But a lot of other states just have one or the other. It seems like we have all of them condensed in one place here in Arizona. And so it is very, very important that we elect people, especially during the primaries, who believe in what we believe. The tenets of the Republican Party are faith, family, and freedom. And we want people who are going to fight for those things in the form of smaller government, lower taxes, personal responsibility, and following the United States Constitution. So we are very, very blessed here in Arizona because we've got a lot of candidates who have those principles, who have that bedrock foundation to be able to go on to all levels of elected office, from the school board all the way to the United States Senate in 2022, to put those things into action, to put those beliefs and those foundations into policy action that are beneficial, not just for Republicans, but for all Arizonans and all Americans.
Oh, great. I love to hear that. Thank you, Kelli. You really are in a very unique position because Arizona is on the front lines of the border crisis, the drug crisis, the illegal migration crisis. And because you have been so successfully, personally and politically involved in Arizona, are there some lessons that candidates, both on the state and federal level, should be remembering or thinking more about and putting into practice this year? Things that you might have learned over time that might be especially important this cycle? Because I think assuring the electoral process is honest and transparent and high integrity is vital. But if we assume that every legal vote will be counted, what should candidates be thinking about this year in terms of getting out the vote, motivating Americans to preserve the values that we know are most important?
Right. Well, the candidates are important, but the people are even more important. The people who are casting the votes. They need to get to know those candidates. They need to know them, whether they already represent them or they're seeking to be a new voice at any level of government. Go to events. Look them in the eye, ask them the tough questions, and make sure they look you back in the eye whenever they're answering. Because as we know, I know I've been disappointed by politicians again and again and again who say one thing on the campaign trail and then do the opposite in many cases once they get elected to office. And some of that, I think, is naivete of the candidate, not really realizing what it takes to actually serve, because being on the campaign trail is pretty fun. You get to go out, you get to shake hands, you get to kiss babies. But the policy making is is ultimately what we need to have. We need to have great policy makers who are able to put together ideas that are beneficial across the board. And then they have to be a little bit of a salesman. They have to be able to sell those ideas to their colleagues on both sides of the aisle so that they can be passed through the legislative process and then signed by the executive and put into action. So I would just implore people, number one, register to vote. Make sure that you're registered to vote at your current address. Make sure that your neighbors, your friends, your family, they're all registered to vote at their current addresses. And then make sure whenever election time rolls around, whether your primary is coming up in the next month or so, or isn't until later in August, make sure you get to the polls. And then, of course, in November, that's when it really counts. Get to the polls, make sure that you cast your vote, and be involved. One other thing, being involved during the election process for people, being a poll observer or a poll worker is also very important. What we saw in Virginia with the sweep of Republicans across the board was because Republicans were there and they were watching at the polls. And when people are watching, people are much less likely to be able to cheat. And we want it to be easy to vote, but hard to cheat.
Excellent point. Thank you for that good reminder. So important. Doctor, I do want to pivot to your strength in medicine and your experience as a family health practitioner. We've seen the ups and downs over the past 20 years in medicine, but especially the issues that affect costs and access. And many of our members, they're so focused on healthcare and how healthcare costs are rising, especially with rising inflation. And I see that you recently retweeted this chart of household inflation by state. And according to the graph, Arizona is one of the highest with a household inflation rise of nearly 12%. How do you think this plays a part in the Arizona healthcare system?
I think that we still need messengers for healthcare and healthcare freedom. The reason I got into politics in the first place was Obamacare. I'm a family doctor. I owned my own practice. I was in practice with my mom, who's a pediatrician. We had just a lovely life. And then suddenly here comes the government trying to elbow their way into a place where they never should be. And I could see that it was the biggest takeover of healthcare freedom and healthcare liberty that we were ever going to see in our lifetime. And I found myself saying, why doesn't somebody fight against this? And then I had to look in the mirror and say, why don't I do something? I've got skills and talents. I've been blessed with so much, and I could put them into action for more than just my family or my patients in my office. Maybe I could do something on a bigger scale. So we need those messengers that are out there who are able to communicate a message of healthcare freedom and that it is possible in the United States. Because when we get the healthcare that we want and the healthcare that we need, rather than settling for what the government is just willing to give us, then we're going to have better outcomes economically, as well as in terms of overall health of ourselves and our communities.
Yeah, the government really has no place in the doctor-patient relationship. And people understand that, it's very important that we all have access to quality health care, so important. But anytime you hand over anything to the government, just take a look at any part of the government where they've taken over full control. Things don't operate as well. Costs rise. Competition falls by the wayside. Innovation is not encouraged. And the pockets of many politicians are lined. It is not good, in the end. It is not for the greater good to push for some of these Medicare for all and things that we've seen over the last number of years, Obamacare. And I do pray and hope that in November, that if we see a red wave, that we'll have a number of folks that really understand that this is an area that we need to take a hard look at. And AMAC will be at the ready and paying close attention to any new developments there. But I appreciate just the reminder there that we can get back and the hope that we can return. But we do need messengers for sure of healthcare freedom. And seniors get that, especially our members. So thank you. I do want to shift to a topic that must concern you. It concerns all Americans, and that is the intersection of really the three major problems: the open border, the crisis in drug abuse, and then the spike in violent crime. In Arizona, as in so many states, these are really front and center issues. And the decision, I think, by Biden to lift Title 42 in May, which has really been a law on the books since 1944 that protects Americans from illegal aliens with communicable diseases, why he would do that is very mystifying, especially when he's trying so desperately to, keep mask mandates for people like you and I, but wants to allow all kinds of people to come across the border without too much of a second guess as to whether or not these people have COVID or sick. Let me ask you, do you see these three issues, the border, the drugs, and the crime related, and explain to us how you see that? And how did we get to this evil intersection? Really, it's such a bad place to be.
Yes, it is. 100%. Those things are all related, as well as the Democrats' effort to defund the police. That has made the crime problem much worse in many of our cities, as well as in many other places where there wasn't a lot of police action to start with. And so we see it here. A recent poll came out in Arizona showing that the top issue for people right now is illegal immigration. 56% of the people polled said that was the top thing that they were concerned about. And it is because of the drug trafficking, the weapons trafficking, and the human trafficking that's going on at the border. Those border communities are the ones that are most vulnerable and the most at risk. And many times, many legal immigrants live right there along those borders. And these policies that Joe Biden and his administration and people like Mark Kelly, who's in the United States Senate right now and should be out of the United States Senate from Arizona, are not doing anything to protect those American citizens and the people that are living in our country legally from the surge coming across the border. I just saw a video of people coming across the border illegally and then taking selfies of themselves with designer bags. And it just is very untoward. And to see what Washington, D.C. has not done for decades makes me want our states to stand up and to be stronger. I love seeing that Texas was sending people who came to the country illegally straight up to Washington, D.C., or even to Delaware, to Joe Biden's state, because they are not dealing with what we are at the border, with grandmothers who are ranchers and in ranch families having to make sure that they're armed when they return home from the grocery store because someone who crossed the border might be inside their home. They've come across them. It's very dangerous for people on this side of the border, but probably more dangerous for people who are trying to come across those borders, because we have the Border Patrol to help protect the people on our border. On the other side, there's no protection whatsoever. They're at the whim of the cartel, of the coyotes. They are tortured, especially the young women and the young boys, because there is a lot of sexual abuse that goes on as those people travel across the border. So if people can't see the dangers of the drug crisis and what we're seeing in our country, and they can't see the problem with illegal weapons coming across, I certainly hope that they can see the humanitarian crisis of people trying to come across another country into this one, and the terrible things that they suffer on the way here. That's why we've got to have a secure border. Border security is national security, is community security. So I'm looking forward to see what Arizona can do on our own once 2022 elections are done and we have a great governor in place.
Yeah, very good point. And I think our border patrol, they're heroes. They've apprehended dozens of folks that are on and men on the terrorist watch list and such. This is dangerous stuff. And I just think that every sovereign nation has a border. Um, Borders are important. We need to reform immigration. I want to welcome everyone into America, but there's a way that we can figure out how to do it in in a legal way and in a way that protects American citizens, ultimately. I agree with you. What's happening at
Well, we have the most generous immigration policy in the world. And there are people
Good
that
point.
want even more. And so we just need to actually enforce the laws we have on our books. And I think that we would be in a much better place. It's a great place to start.
Yeah. Sounds so simple. And then you wonder, why do we have an administration that is turning a blind eye to this as we see the number of people that are overdosing from fentanyl? And we recognize that there are so many young people, boys and girls, women, young men that are being completely mistreated, abused. And this is something that doesn't just go away when they get here to America. It's a lifestyle, and it will impact our local school districts. It'll impact our communities, and we can't ignore that it doesn't exist. If the Biden administration is really allowing this border to remain wide open for the votes that he hopes he'll get, he may be in for a big surprise. He may not understand exactly who he's letting over. But I want to thank you. I want to thank you for that. It is so important. We could talk for hours on the border alone. So many issues. We were there down in Texas and met with a grandmother who indeed used to leave her home open, her doors open, and now needs to carry, which is something that she never imagined she'd ever be in that position. But she needs to do that in order to protect her life. So it is a real issue. Thank you, Doctor. I want to turn to another issue of importance to Arizona and the nation, and this is education. Arizona is contending with major concerns in public education, and the entire nation really is. We saw Virginia. We're hearing parents speak out and come out, and we're hearing so much about political correctness. And then there's so much outright disinformation, and that disinformation is replacing historically objective teaching. Parents are being marginalized nationally, and they're trying to guide school boards right back towards quality education. But I saw a recent tweet of yours, and you had posted Arizona's most recent updates on their education bills. Could you explain how some of these bills passed in the Arizona State Senate will impact students and parents?
Right. Well, and I will tell you that I'm very, very blessed because my daughter works for an education organization called the Arizona Coalition of School Board Members. It is it's a nonpartisan organization, but it's kind of a foil for the Arizona School Board Association that's associated with the National School Board Association. And so I get a lot of great information from my daughter about what's happening in the educational sphere. And parents, it is clear that parents want to be involved in their kids' education. And when the educrats, I like to call them the educrats, when they get involved and say, parents, stay away. We shouldn't have to tell you what we're teaching your children. Curriculum shouldn't be transparent to you, the taxpayer, or you, the parents. Parents get up in arms, and they do start to attend school board school board meetings, and they start to run to be on the school board. And we need to be able to support those people who do get into those positions to realize that they work for the people, that they work for the parents, that they do not work for the superintendent of their school system. The superintendent works for them. And so in Arizona, we've got a lot of school bills going through. Unfortunately, we have a couple of Republicans who have stopped some of those. Just yesterday, there was a vote on curriculum transparency, and all Republicans voted for it except one. And one, unfortunately, is enough to stop it. Now, a couple of other guys took their names off so they can bring it back. So I'm hopeful that bill is going to go forward so that parents are assured what's being taught in their kids' classroom without feeling like someone's going to call them a domestic terrorist for doing so.
Yeah, and it's true. We're seeing this major rise in Marxism in schools, through critical race theory is where we're seeing it through critical race theory. We're seeing girls' sports that are marginalized by a Democrat-led push to really allow biological male athletes to compete with. And really, that what that does is it kills all of the gains from 50 years of Title IX, public education under siege. So I do think that parents and political leaders, we need to be talking about this. We need to regain what was lost. And so I thank you again. I do want to move on to two more quick topics. Your time is precious, and I appreciate it so much. Um, you're a state that borders a foreign country, and at this juncture, we have an aggressive and ruthless, barbaric Russian leader, Vladimir Putin, and he is committing unthinkable acts in Ukraine. We have so many refugees that are fleeing that violence, and we seem to sort of have a feckless Biden administration because at first they implied that a minor incursion might be permissible, and then Biden implied that U.S. troops might end up in Ukraine, and then he talked about removing Putin from power. He just seems to be stumbling, I think, unable to really deliver really harsh sanctions. Maybe he's drifting, but of course, we have to remember that this is the same administration that left 100,000 American allies to fend for themselves in Afghanistan, having left that nation in such a chaotic and indefensible way last August. So as you see U.S. foreign policy today, whether it's toward Mexico, Europe, China, Afghanistan, or Russia, how badly do you think the Biden administration is stumbling? And do you think that this may have longer term implications, including, for our southern border and security right here at home?
Yes. I mean, even Barack Obama said that Joe Biden didn't know what he was talking about on foreign policy. And that was way back when Joe Biden might have had some competence left. I just think he and his administration are completely incompetent on the foreign policy front. The United States of America should be a bright, shining light on the hill, not just for our citizens, but for the world. And that light has dimmed significantly with this administration in the White House and in control. What's happening in Ukraine and with Russia is unconscionable. There is no plan forward. Just as you mentioned, one day it's one thing, the next day it's something else. Our allies don't know if they can trust us. Actually, they know that they can't trust us after what they've seen from country to country to country. When we had a strong leader in the White House, when President Trump was there, these things were not happening because the world knew that the United States was a shining light on the hill, that we were living the doctrine of peace through strength, making sure that our country was strong, was prepared, in hopes that we would never have to go out into another war. I'm a firm believer that we shouldn't be the policemen of the world. That we should be the example for the world, but we shouldn't be fighting endless wars with the lives of our young men and our young women for things that we really don't know exactly what's going on. The propaganda problem right now is also so significant with what comes in. We don't really know what to believe, what's true, what's not true, what's happening on the ground. But I can tell you this, we all should be praying for all the people, for the people of Ukraine, but also the people that are Russian, that are just collateral damage from their terrible government, and keeping them in our thoughts and prayers. And then in November, we need to elect Republicans so that we can stop the madness on the ground and we can come back to that bright, shining light that we should be for the world.
And that's my final question right there. I think I know the answer, but what do you think the chances are of major change at the federal level in 2022?
I think that there is a huge opportunity for a so-called red wave. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody can just sit back and wait and it's going to happen automatically. We, the people, are that red wave going out and making sure that we vote. When you look at the generic Republican versus Democrat across the country, Republicans are leading in a significant manner, anywhere from 10 to even 20 points on the Democrats. We just have to make sure that we're keeping the information flowing, we're keeping the positivity going, and we're keeping the action. Don't get angry. If you get angry, turn that anger into action. And the action that we need in 2022 is to turn out our voters, not just Republicans, but also independents and the Democrats who are upset about all these issues we were talking about today: the border, jobs, the economy, the drug crisis, education, wars, foreign wars. All of those things have got America woken up, not woke, but awoken. And we've got to get to the polls so that we can win. We can take our country back.
Oh, thank you so much, Doctor. AMAC's over 74,000 members. And if any of you are listening, I know a number of you are. Thank you for the work that you have done, especially as it relates to election integrity and critical race theory. In March, April, May, June of 2021, Arizona AMAC members sent 22,374 emails to the state legislature telling them to vote for election integrity bills, and their support helped to get third-party money out of local election administration to stop inactive voters from automatically receiving ballots and preventing the changing of election deadlines, penalize noncompliance for cleaning up voter rolls, and enhance voter ID for early voting ballots, all of which were signed into law by the governor. And also in 2021, AMAC members told the Arizona legislature to support a measure that bans critical race theory funding for public employees. And this bill passed the legislature and was signed into law by the governor as well. AMAC members also encouraged Senator Kristen Sinema through 2021 and 2022 to support the Senate filibuster. She ended up voting with Republicans to preserve this Senate tool. In 2022, AMAC Action joined with a coalition to support Arizona's HB 2492, a bill which requires proof of citizenship to vote in presidential elections. And that bill passed the state legislature and was signed into law by the governor in March. So, Kelli, AMAC members care about the issues that you care so much about. I want to thank every one of you out there listening for the work that you do, for participating in AMAC's calls to action, because it's each and every one of us that can make a difference, we the people, and we need our voices to be heard. So if you haven't renewed your AMAC membership, be sure to do that. I want to thank you, Kelli, for your time, your insights, sharing your experience with us today, because I really love your unique perspectives, and you really have such important wins for the people of your state, and your experience is very helpful for us to hear. So thank you for your time today.
And thank you for everything that you do and your members, because as you can see, you just listed, you can make a difference. I would love to keep in touch with people. They can find me on social media at Kelli Ward AZ. Kelli with an I, because I care about the people, or go to my website, kelliward.com. Looking forward to keeping in touch and looking forward to saving this country.
Oh, thank you. And to everyone out there listening, thanks so much for tuning in today. If you haven't downloaded the AMAC News app, you can watch, you can listen and track shows like this. You can get breaking news right there on your phone. Please make sure to hit that subscribe button, follow, like, and share wherever you are on social media. Until next time, I'm Rebecca Weber. This is your podcast, Better for America. Thanks for being here. God bless you, and have a great day, everyone.
You're listening to the Better for America podcast, presented by AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens. To learn more about AMAC and all it has to offer, visit us at www.amac.us.